Part 1. The Awakening of the Void. In the beginning, the heavens had been a sanctuary of eternal peace. The light bathed everything in warmth and clarity, a realm where angels and celestial beings thrived in harmony under the watchful eyes of the eternal flame. It was a place where time itself seemed to pause, where the purest of souls were shaped and refined into forms of perfect grace. In this divine paradise, creation was an art, and the battle between light and darkness had long been settled. At the very heart of the heavens stood the celestial citadel, a magnificent structure of ever-shifting light and precious metals that reflected the purity of its surroundings. At its pinnacle were the Celestial Council, a group of the most powerful and wise archangels whose responsibility was to maintain balance between light and dark. They were the chosen ones, each with a specific role in preserving harmony in the universe, and they operated as the protectors of the sacred law that governed the realms. Among them, Seraphiel was the most revered. The Archangel of Valor, known for his unwavering loyalty to the light and his fierce courage in the face of any threat, he was both a warrior and a guardian, dedicated to protecting the purity of heaven. His wings were like the sun itself, each feather a blade of radiance, and in his hand, the Sword of Radiance, a weapon of unimaginable power. His heart, pure and resolute, had always remained steadfast, until now. The threat that now arose from the shadows was not of mere rebellion or disobedience. It was something far darker, a presence that stirred the ancient, forgotten corners of the heavens. It had been prophesied long ago, before time even began, that the light and darkness would clash again, this time not in a battle of power, but in a war for the very soul of existence. It began subtly at first. The stars, which had long been a symbol of the balance between light and darkness, began to flicker. At first, it was dismissed as an anomaly, a strange celestial occurrence that held no deeper meaning. But then, the whispers began. Low murmurs that echoed across the heavens, carried on the winds like fragments of a forgotten song. The council met in secret to discuss these strange omens, for they knew that nothing in heaven occurred without purpose. "We must prepare," Gabriel, the Archangel of Heralds, spoke softly but firmly, his golden wings glowing brightly against the shadows. His deep blue eyes were clouded with concern as he looked toward Seraphiel, seeking counsel. "Something stirs in the void. The balance is shifting." Seraphiel stood motionless, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I have felt it too," he replied, his voice somber. "The darkness stirs, not just in the corners of the realms, but at the heart of our very creation. The time has come. We must act swiftly." In the distance, beyond the stars, the darkness began to take shape, as if the void itself was awakening. It was a force that had been banished long ago, long before the first light was ever forged. The darkness was not simply an absence of light, but a sentient power, older than the very idea of time. It was the primordial force from which all things had been birthed, and from which all things would eventually return. Asmodeus, the once proud and powerful archangel, was the harbinger of this darkness. He had once stood beside Seraphiel, Gabriel, and the other archangels as a leader among the divine, but pride and ambition had poisoned his heart. He had grown weary of the eternal cycle of light and shadow, feeling the burden of creation too heavily on his wings. The eternal order, the celestial council's rule, no longer satisfied his thirst for power and freedom. And so, Asmodeus had rebelled. He had fallen from grace, cast into the deepest abyss of the void, his wings torn and broken, his once glorious form now a shadow of hatred. In his isolation, he had discovered the truth. The light could not exist without the darkness, and in his mind, that meant the darkness should rule, not serve. The divine order had been a lie, a prison. He had come to see that the true power of the universe was rooted not in creation, but in destruction. For eons, the universe had known peace, but peace was an illusion. With every passing day, the seeds of Asmodeus's rebellion grew, unseen by the watchful eyes of the council. His whisperings began to infect the hearts of other fallen angels, those who had once served heaven and been cast out alongside him, each one driven by their own desires, their own bitterness at the injustices they had suffered. Together, they had begun to form an army forged not in the fires of creation, but in the cold, infinite emptiness of the void. Now, Asmodeus was preparing to return. And with him, a new era of darkness would dawn. Part 2. The Gathering Storm. The news of Asmodeus's return spread through the heavens like wildfire. Celestial beings who had once lived in peace found themselves filled with fear and doubt, for they had been told that such a time would never come. The darkness had been defeated, banished from the realms of creation long ago. But now, a storm of shadows was gathering, and no one knew how to face it. In the celestial citadel, the council convened, their faces grim as they gazed upon the ancient scrolls of prophecy, their fingers tracing the cryptic words of their forebears. They had foreseen a time when the balance would tip, when the forces of light and darkness would collide once again. But the specifics were hazy, hidden in the veil of uncertainty. Seraphiel stood at the head of the council, his expression resolute. We must strike before the darkness can fully manifest. We cannot afford to wait any longer. Asmodeus will not be content with mere rebellion. He will seek to unmake creation itself. But how? Raphael, the archangel of healing, asked. His voice trembled with worry, though he remained steadfast. Asmodeus was once one of us. His power is immense, and we have only just begun to understand the true nature of the threat. Gabriel stepped forward, his golden wings unfurling with a flare of light. We are the light of the heavens, he said, his tone firm. Together, we will stand against him. The strength of our unity is our greatest weapon. As Seraphiel's gaze swept over the council, he could feel the weight of their trust upon him. The time had come to rally the forces of light and prepare for war. Heaven itself trembled at the thought, but the celestial beings knew they had no choice. If Asmodeus and his army of fallen angels succeeded, it would not only be the end of heaven, but the end of all creation. The council made its decision. War was upon them. We will be stopping here today. You can't afford to miss this interesting chapters on what later happened between the battles between light and darkness. Like, subscribe and comment. I'm ready for the chapters, and we will be dropping the chapters tomorrow. Remember to turn on your notification bells so you will be notified immediately we drop a video on battle between light and darkness. God bless you.